Very good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this panel discussion on energy storage and grid integration of renewables. So I think in the previous session, it was a very rich session and a lot has been said, and even we heard about integration of renewables into the system. We clearly know renewables is an infirm source of power. It cannot provide on a standalone basis, round-the-clock power to you. So what do we do, and how do we integrate that infirm source of power into the grid? There are a couple of things which are needed for that. Of course, we have a huge renewable target planned, 500 gigawatts by 2030. So for that, the country has also looked at certain plans. We have seen green energy corridors coming in, and a lot of emphasis being put on that. So a lot of emphasis on new and additional transmission capacity being created. We also heard in the morning that the system to integrate these renewables need to be more flexible, in various ways. So we have to ensure flexibilization of systems, including flexibilizing the thermal plants. We of course need better forecasting and scheduling. As again was mentioned in the morning, we need to ensure that we have better forecasts of renewable generation and also of demand which is available. We really need some ancillary services mechanisms, and we have seen some drafts which have already come in to balance the load, to provide ancillary services when the renewables are not catering to the system in the bigger way. And the pricing has to be cost effective, particularly in the context of large scale grid storage. So we need to ensure cost effective pricing, one of the biggest barriers in storage as of now. And as was also mentioned, we need to have some demand side measures coming in to make sure that when the system is not resilient, we empower it with demand side measures. So I think a couple of things which are needed for integrating the renewables in the system, and that was just a context which I was trying to set for the panel discussion, and I have a very esteemed panel with me. So, I would like to move to my panelists now, and I would like to follow a slightly different format if you're all right. Before, throwing any questions at you, I would first like to hear from you what your organization is doing towards integrating renewables into the system. What is each of your respective organizations doing? So if you can have an opening remark of 2-3 minutes on that, and then we'll go into some question answers. Thank you.
I'm AKV Bhaskar, Director Grid and Transmission. I come from AP Transco.
So I think we can't hear you, so mic closer.
We have a capacity of 8,000 megawatts in our system. So 4,000 solar and 4,000 megawatts wind generation. And we are going to add 7,000 megawatts of solar generation in the next 3 years to come from SECI, so which serves the agriculture loads predominantly. And we are going to add, our state is encouraging wind and solar projects coupled with the pumped storage. There are recently investor summit has happened in Visakhapatnam, the most happening district in the state, and it's nearly 40,000 megawatts, 44 gigawatt is a potential is available in our state, and nearly 33 gigawatt of pumped storage capacity is available in the state. Many of the investors have come forward to set up their units in AP state, and nearly 6.6 gigawatt is already allotted to them. So we are developing a transmission corridor to evacuate RE power from the RE potential area to the coastal states where the loads are to be met. Recently we planned for nearly 765 lands, which involves a cost of 15,000 crores. We are going to submit to CEA shortly. Another thing that is going to happen is hydrogen is being encouraged in our state in almost four ports, nearly Krishnapatnam, Ramayapatnam, and Kakinada and Visakhapatnam ports. So for this to happen, we need some loads to come from RE potential areas. So some high transmission corridor at 760, since 765 potential is planned. Sir.
Any specific steps you're taking, sir, for grid scale storage also?
Already AP Genco, our state Genco is setting up a pumped storage plant of 1300 megawatts. This is in advanced stage. Statutory clearance, judicial review is being taken, and we are going to take up the project shortly.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Mr. Kawrani.
Namaskar and good afternoon. I am Anil Kawrani from Central Electricity Authority. Actually, my senior, Mr. A.K. Rajput, member power system, was supposed to come, but he got occupied, and I'll be speaking on his behalf. The government is doing a lot on grid integration of renewables and energy storage. I would speak out some of the initiatives of many initiatives being taken by government. First is renewable purchase obligation RPO and energy storage obligation. The order was issued by Ministry of Power, wherein trajectory for RPO for wind, hydro purchase obligation and other RPO as well as ECO targets as a percentage of total consumption of electricity has been laid down for the years 29-30. Then MOP has also issued green hydrogen policy to incentivize and encourage production of green hydrogen and green ammonia and their applications in the country. Legal status for energy storage system has been issued by ministry, wherein ESS has been designed as a power system element which can be utilized as a generator, transmission and distribution element. Waiver of, we just heard from one of the speakers, waiver of ISTS charges on hydro pump storage projects and BESS projects commissioned up to 30th June 2025 has been provided. The waiver shall be applicable for a period of 25 years for hydro PSP and for a period of 12 years for BESS, or for a period subsequently notified for future projects by the central government from the date of commissioning of the power plant. Then revised scheme for flexibility in generation and scheduling of thermal hydropower stations through bundling with renewable energy and storage power has been notified. Bidding guidelines for battery energy storage system have also been notified by ministry. Then Solar Energy Corporation of India, a PSU under MNRE, concluded the bidding process for setting up of a pilot projects of 500 megawatt oblique 100 megawatt hour standalone BESS under tariff-based global competitive bidding at Fatehgarh 3 substation of Power Grid. Another initiative was must-run priority dispatch status for renewables. In this regard, CERC has given a must-run status to solar and wind power in Regulation 5.1U of CERC, Indian Electricity Code Regulation 2010. Green term ahead market to provide enhanced avenues for sale of RE, and last but not the least, green day ahead market for trading of RE to meet green targets. These are some of the many steps being taken by the government. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for elucidating all the steps which government has taken. Over to you, Dr. Kaur.
Thank you. And a very good afternoon to everyone. I was looking at the watch, probably that's a short time for our panel. To begin my introduction, I would say that I was actually wondering that here are all government authorities, PSUs, and some big private firms as well participating in renewables and all other things. And I come from a very different background. I am a co-founder and the CEO of a startup. It's Esmito Solutions Private Limited, and representing probably all the startups community in the country here. So this time, what we are doing in my startup are batteries for lithium ion. And when we say batteries, these are all Indianized batteries, scratched, designed, and very well engineered from all different aspects of engineering. And when we talk about engineering and the batteries, we know that apart from cells, everything else we can do in the country. And when we talk about safety, performance, efficiency, the heart and soul of the batteries is battery management system, where we have gained expertise in. So apart from BMS and the batteries, we do some charging swapping stations to bring in the affordability, especially in the EV segment. And prior to this EV mobility segment was driven by our interest or the basic work that we had done in solar. So this was a story that we tried to make systems which had few innovations in them for rooftop. So these were off-grid systems that we had developed while I was working as a researcher in IIT Madras. And before starting the Center for Battery Engineering, I was the founder director of the Center for Battery Engineering, doing R&D around battery system. So here those systems attracted a lot of innovations, and whenever we are talking about technology and innovations in renewables, be it any part of the system, we generally consider that there are not much to do because these are systems that have been developed by Western countries or elsewhere, and we forget that we have to look at them afresh. So that is what we have been trying to do. That's what we did in renewables and continuing to do it in the EV mobility segment as well.
Yeah, I've read quite a lot about your work, as the director for the Center for Batteries in IIT Madras. So very well done. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for those opening remarks. I think going ahead into the panel discussion, there are three aspects which clearly warrant more discussion. One is, how do we manage the cost? Cost is the biggest prohibitor or the component for at least a grid scale battery storage coming in, which can, enable integration of renewables. The second aspect is the technological advancements and what more can happen in those areas. And the third one is on grid stability. So, how can we ensure grid stability? So I think those are the three things that I would like to pose to my panelists here. So starting with you, with you, Mr. Bhaskar, how do you think the cost curve, the first aspect which I mentioned of storage, we brought down, particularly in terms of managing the peaks and ensuring the battery storage is available in the system as and when needed at a affordable rate. So how do you think the cost curve can come down, and what is your view on that?
Sir, the need for energy storage is increasing with the increasing share of renewables. It's the need of the hour.
Yeah. Little closer, sir.
It is the need of the hour. Otherwise, the grid stability and the resilience and the flexible options that are not available, it will come with the pumped storage scheme. That is what I feel. So we are not seeing any reduction in tariff of pumped storage. So it is better to put up pumped storage plants across the country, which I think there is an estimation of 103 gigawatt available in the country. In our state, we have a potential of 33 gigawatt, and already we have allocated 6.6 gigawatt to the aspirants. See, once the entire whatever the problems that we face as a grid operator, we need grid stability, and because of this intermittency, we have to balance the load and generation, and then the inertia that will not be available with the increasing solar penetration that will be coming from pumped storage project, and then voltage control also. Voltage control is going to be a big menace once this 500 gigawatt is integrated into system, especially so in those states where total agriculture supply is met from solar generation. At the same time, there will be induction load from the pump sets. So we need to balance the requirement of the reactive power. So there should, in the years to come, there will be some ancillary services which should provide inertia as well as reactive power. So pumped storage is the low-cost solution, and which can have larger capacity and long duration also. So generally, I tell you one thing, from our state, we are going to supply the entire agriculture connection during daytime only, in single spell. When it comes to night, we need to have some base load. So for that, we have to tie up power, or we have to establish some units, thermal units, which is costly. So what we are thinking, to have solar generation, more solar generation, so that the surplus energy in the daytime, we can pump back the water and use it in the evening peak hours, so that the average cost will come down.
Yeah, no, definitely, sir. So, a pump storage, of course, is a good viable option, but each state doesn't have that resource
Sir,
availability.
Every state has a land. They can have upper reservoir and lower reservoir.
Yeah, that's true. But just to supplement the system, we are also talking about battery storage. I mean, it's not that it's something which is...
Battery storage coupled with pump storage, it is a good option, and we can say that there will not be any threat to the grid.
But sir, any point of view on when will you think it will become viable in the system? I mean, as was mentioned in the morning, that it cannot be treated as an L1 kind of or the least cost kind of scenario. It should be some kind of feed-in tariffs, or certain ancillary services at a prime rate. So how do you think the cost curve of that going forward?
The pumped storage plants, the investors whoever put in pumped storage plants, they will get good amount of money during morning peak hours from 6 to 8 and evening peak hours, and the intermittency that is going to happen due to cloud cover of solar or wind generation. So pumped storage plants will give a good option for the investors to put in plants in all the states, I think. And then going by the rates at which this power is available, going to be available during morning peak, it will be exorbitant in the days to come. Already some regulation has come in force for the high cost power. Nearly 50 rupees is also pegged rate, and up to 50 rupees we can, any state can buy, or any consumer can buy from the exchange. So with kind of amount, and what our investors in our state, investors coming to our state say, they say around 4 rupees as a fixed cost for the pumped storage. And anyhow, we are going to low cost power of solar generation in the daytime. So generally we expect around 6 to 8 rupees. Yeah. The total cost of the power comes to as a peak power in the day, which I think it is affordable. In the days to come, it will be much cheaper than what going to happen in the power exchanges.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Turning over to Mr. Kawrani. So as at the helm of affairs at CEA, what do you think are the initiatives which probably CEA is taking, or initiative which should be taken to ensure that the grid is stable, reliable, while renewables are integrated into the system?
Well, before I exactly go into the steps that are needed or taken up, I would like to share a small incident, of course not exactly related to the topics we are talking about. It's regarding a question posed by a journalist to a cricketer. He asked him, what is the secret of your success? So initially the cricketer was trying to avoid the question, but when he insisted, so he simply said, I just follow the basics. So then journalist went further and asked him, can you please elaborate for the young cricketers who are still like learning? So he himself was a good batsman. So he said the first basic is, when the ball comes to me, I decide whether to take this ball or let it go to the wicket keeper. Then he said, you have been hitting very good shots. What is the secret behind that? Again he said, I am just following the basics. I just try to play with the straight bat. Then it depends whether it goes for a 4 or I get more runs. So I would like to just begin these things which are needed or taken up with some of the very basic things. That first of all, proper and coordinated planning is the basic requirement. The proper timely execution of the system, complying with the prescribed standards and regulation is a must. Sometimes we ignore the basics and we try to find out कि कहीं कुछ special हमें करना है. The system stability aspect is an operational issue as well. Hence, there is a requirement of proper instrumentation for communication system monitoring and control. Again, training of personnel in the respective field will enhance the capability of the personnels. Now, we have talked about the intermittency and variability of this RE power. And we know that it depends on weather forecast also. So if we get proper and accurate weather forecasting, it will be good to know what is expected RE generation going to be. The other thing is establishment of REMC, that is Renewable Energy Management Centers, to facilitate smooth integration of this capacity into the grid. 11 REMCs have already been commissioned and 1 energy management center, and further 1 REMC is under implementation. Green energy corridors is another thing which aims to facilitate evacuation of electricity produced from RE such as solar and wind and integrate them into the grid. Interstate and intrastate infrastructure are being created under the project for integration of RE. MOP has also notified electricity promotion of generation of electricity from must-run power plants rules 2021, which mandate that renewable energy projects, including but not limited to wind, solar hybrid, hydropower sources, must be considered a must-run project as per the rules. These projects shall not be subjected to curtailment, regulation of generation or supply of electricity on account of merit order dispatch or any other commercial consideration. MOP has also notified electricity promoting renewable energy through Green Energy Open Access Rules 2022 in order to further accelerate our ambitious renewable energy program with the end goal of ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and green energy for all. For promoting the use of renewable energy and replacing the costlier thermal hydropower with RE, a revised scheme for flexibility in generation and scheduling of thermal hydropower stations through bundling with renewable energies and storage power was issued by MOP. Another thing is RTC power, round the clock power, in which we can have a thermal generator to back down during the day when RE is available, and at night it can generate to the full so that we get a 24-hour supply. Power banking is another thing in which during the daytime some energy can be taken from one state to and given to another, and there can be exchange of this energy in the night time, irrespective of the fact what kind of power station it is coming from. Then we see that demand forecasting is another factor, especially at state load dispatch center. If it is closer to the accurate one, like realistic one, then we get if we keep on just basing our projections on previous years or previous months data. In addition, if we take into consideration new load centers or new industries coming up, and if there is shift in load pattern, realistic demand forecasting will also be helpful in maintaining the grid properly. Then we should utilize the geographic diversity and improve RE and load forecasting, increasing sharing amongst balancing areas. Like some areas are falling short during some period of time, and just like the banking I said. Then if we can coordinate flexible loads, that will be active demand response, and utilize flexible conventional generation and expand transmission. Another step could be the integration of distributed generation resources on low grid requires the support of active demand response and energy storage systems to maintain grid stability. A good demand supply balance is not only essential to meet the demand, but also ensures grid voltage and frequency stability and the overall reliability of the power system. Electricity storage can facilitate the grid integration of renewable power technologies such as wind and solar, the production of which varies depending on meteorological conditions as well as daily, seasonally, with variations lasting for seconds, minutes, and hours. Last but not the least is the use of hydrogen for energy storage. It's an effective solution to solve intermittent energy issues associated with solar and wind energy. And of course, for this again we require RE energy. The main challenge associated with hydrogen implementation is related to its production and storage. Many hydrogen storage options have been proposed with the feasibility of different strategies depending on the demands of their target sectors. An ideal energy storage system would consist of an electrolyzer that is powered by excess wind or solar electricity coupled with a hydrogen storage system. And we can use this in transport sector also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those comprehensive comments. So I'll move on to Dr. Kaur, and in light of time, so this would be the last question probably. So we've covered cost, we've covered some stability issues. So the question for you is, what do you see in terms of the technology? What do you see some of the advancements or developments which could be happening in next a few years? Which could make the battery storage technology more efficient, more cost effective. So what are some of the technological advancements that you foresee coming in? You've been at IIT, and you've looked at the technology very closely. So I think, any comments on that?
Sure. So if we look at technology from battery storage or say energy storage point of view, as well as on grid integration side, let's split it into 2-3 parts. So the first part is purely from the hardware perspective. And when we say hardware perspective, I mean on the source part of it. So when we talk of source, that means it is sun or wind, or anything else to that matter, water, biofuel, or other sources where there is lot of scope of innovation, and we are seeing a lot of work being done by all different companies and startups who are working together, be it materials or their generations, their flexible solars, floating solars, and all other different types of blade technologies and things like that that are happening. And all the way to the second part, which is onto the soft aspects of it. Now, when we talk about the soft aspects, like the gentleman just mentioned, that the integration part of it and finding out the demand and source matching, and this optimization. And right now that we are talking about, it's a very fascinating word from technology point of view. So if we talk about AI coming into picture, we never thought that solar would have anything to do with AI, right? So now the load prediction, the source prediction, the load shedding that is happening, all combined together, some good algorithms that could be built around not only in predicting the load and demand matching, but also helping in good integration of different types of sources with different type of load management, different TODs, and different months of the years as well, and across all different regions of the parts of the world. So this is going to be a very interesting era of, I would say that in this as well, digital innovations. To manage the entire spectrum of renewables. So this is going to play a very, very important role that we are going to see in the near future to come, and the work is already on. And the third aspect, like you mentioned, that we cannot forget is the energy storage. Now, we have been talking about battery storages. Lead acid has been there for a long, long time. We are seeing the transition to lithium ion, and whatever we are seeing now was the innovations or the result of the research that has happened 3 decades back. So lithium is not new. What we see as the commercial aspects of lithium and what fascinates us today on talking about hydrogen, fuel cells and all that, it is not that we started today and we are seeing the fruits now. So there are some low-hanging fruit for us, especially from India perspective, and there are some long aspects of the research that we need to see. Still keep in mind that though we are delayed, we have to pick that up, and we cannot rely on the others to build the technology and then take the fruit ourselves. So we have to divide our efforts in seeing that how to reap that fruit of what is available as low-hanging fruit from AI and all other things, like especially that we have so intelligent engineers in the country. So those are the aspects. And from energy storage, again, just saying that batteries, there are other aspects, like we see thermal storage, for example. And like in the morning, we heard that from the air conditioning point of view, it's just 3% total consumption of the country that is going into the air conditioning. However, if we see for air conditioning, out of this 3%, it is about 80-85% that is consumed by buildings like these. Right? It is not home consumption. It is the high load, industrial loads, high-rise buildings, etc., that is consuming that load. Now, in that load, and that is where the stability is required, right? The time of metering and the optimization and all of the things that are needed. Now, in that aspect of it, if we start taking advantage of thermal storage and the thermal integration to bring in the optimization as well as stability in the grid. That is going to play a huge role. So we had done certain experiments around that, around the buildings. I mean, we had taken some 3 lakh square feet building, and we found that not only cost optimization, but such small innovations to manage the heat load, where people may not even be impacted, or they won't even notice that there is a change in 2 degrees centigrade that has happened, right? So anything between 18 degrees to 22, 23 degrees while we are working or we are sitting here, to us it's same. And especially in India, when all of us are very tuned to seeing the high range of temperatures, and we are good to live with that, right? So all these techniques are going to play a huge role. And apart from the thermal and this thing, of course, the water and other means of storage are going to help together in bringing in all these innovations together.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think very interesting and insightful comments. While we are grappling with the issue of commercializing or making existing lithium-ion based battery storage, commercially viable, we have to think of what next. That also happened. This is not something, as you rightly said, which has happened overnight or in the last few years. It's been happening for a while. And I think a lot of work is already underway in terms of research on advanced cell chemistry and what more can be done. Very, very interesting. So I would like to thank all my panelists. I think it was a very insightful discussion. I'm sure everybody got some new points. I think all relevant points were mentioned relating to grid storage, battery storage, and also integrating renewables into the system. So once again, thanks a lot to all the panelists.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, panelists. Thank you so much for your time and the insightful knowledge you gave to us. Give them a huge round of applause, everyone. And by any chance, we're opening the floor for the questions if anyone wants to ask, or we're going to take it one-to-one. It's on, sir. It's working.
It depends on the timing. If we have the time, we can open it for audience. So if there's any question specifically, or you can reserve it for the break. Yeah, there is a gentleman there.
Yeah, hi. I have a question for...
Sir, can you identify yourself?
Yeah, Matrugut Mishra. I run a law firm, Ritam Legal.
Okay.
We do a lot of power sector work for the last 10-15 years. We have a specialization into power sector. We represent a lot of power companies, both public sector and private sector, mostly generators, and in CERC, Appellate Tribunal, Supreme Court, High Court, and other regulatory commissions as well. So my question is for Mr. Anil Kawrani. When you mentioned about the green energy open access rules, I would like to know why at all the Ministry of Power has come up with these rules when each and every state is governed by their own regulation. What is the requirement of writing about banking, requirement of writing about agency, requirement of writing about open access, when the Government of India knows very well it's completely the domain of the regulatory commissions, and they are governed by each and every state's commission's regulation. Either the Ministry of Power would have come up with something so that the forum of regulators would have taken it up under the chairmanship of CERC, then what is the requirement of the rules? It has no teeth.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your question. Sir.
I think I would request you to please send this question. Domain expert would be able, I'm not an expert in this field, so it will be replied accordingly.